need some competition out here. Come on.
Our people.
If you're interested in promoting your brand, business, or talent on the first 15 to 30 seconds before each video, email me right now at advertise@hiphopun.com. That's advertise at hiphopun.com. We got some special rates right now. Do not.
Let's transition a little bit because we've seen some interesting things going on in the ESPN world last week. Obviously, us as brothers, we sitting there looking at the NFL draft, and I can't believe it was already a week ago. The way time is flying is nuts.
Yes.
But other things are going on, and that's Sage Steele, one of the ESPN anchors, and her lawsuit against ESPN. Now, if for the people who don't know, when you were on the last time, you told us and gave us some great insight, being a former employee there at ESPN, about things that go on in operations, things to the best of your abilities, you know what I mean, without incriminating yourself. You gave us some great content. We appreciate that. So talk about that situation, if you don't mind. Give us your insight about Sage Steele, Do you know her? And how do you feel about not only her lawsuit, but the events leading up to it?
Yes, it's so much information about this. So I try to unpack it, right? I worked at ESPN for 11 years, and I have worked with Sage on a lot of occasions, and we had a pretty good working relationship. I mean, we didn't go out for dinner or lunch or anything, but she was respectful to me and I was respectful to her. But, from my sources at ESPN right now, the feel of being around her is a little different. Just think about that friend that people feel like is judgmental towards them. I feel like that's how people are looking at Sage Steele because of comments that she's made recently and in the past. She was on record criticizing the way that up and coming journalists are dressing. And a lot of people took offense to that. Now, I can be a little conservative myself, even though I'm also a little bit liberal as well. But I understood what she was trying to say about, not, just putting yourself out there and showing all your skin. But, people really took offense to that because she said that, well, if you get bad comments, can you really not blame the people? So I think, people took issue with that. Also, she's been seen on air, previous years, letting a white guest on Sports Center touch her hair. And as a Black woman, that's a big no-no. So, she's biracial and she always takes the time to, speak about that. So as far as the lawsuit goes, the reason that she had to file this complaint is because last September, she made some statements on Jay Cutler, the former NFL player, quarterback, his podcast, Jay Cutler Uncut. Right. She made some statements where, she didn't want to take the COVID-19 vaccination and she had an issue with the mandates. I mean, a lot of us did, right? Yeah. But for ESPN, they're looking at that like it's a political statement. She also went on to say on the show that when she was a part of The View, something came up to the point of they were talking about census, and Barbara Walters asked her what she would put on there. And she said she would put both black and white. And Barbara Walters said, well, you can't do that. So when it came to the issue of her criticizing former President Obama, she said, well, why would he put black? But his father left him and he wasn't in his life, but his white mother was. And people took offense to that because it's like, okay, you can try to claim your white side as much as you want and deny the black sides, but don't speak for other biracial people. So people are just looking at her as somebody who kind of speaks out of turn. But I have to say, I think Sage thinks that she's being some kind of I don't know if hero is the right word, but I think she feels like she's a voice for biracial people because of the way she makes these statements. Now, as far as this complaint that was filed by her lawyers, it just all comes down to freedom of speech. And in legal terms, we call that protected speech. So I have to say, when you read the complaint, it says that Connecticut law prohibits private employers from disciplining their employees for engaging in constitutionally protected speech, whether that speech takes place in the workplace or outside of it. So like I was saying, her comments to ESPN, they come off as political. Now, when you work for a company like ESPN, you have an employee handbook and you have employee rules. And I don't know exactly how it's stated, but as somebody who formerly worked there and talking to my sources, there is lines in that employee handbook that states that you are supposed to shy away from making certain statements and putting yourself out there in a certain way. Wow. Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah, for sure.
Is there any weight to her lawsuit then, with that being said?
Yes, because just like it's stated in the complaint, I mean, people can say whatever they want to say, whether they like Sage or not. But just like the complaint says, clearly, Sage is protected under both the United States Constitution and the Constitution of the state of Connecticut. So what can you do with that? So when I hear that, I'm saying to myself, at some point, ESPN has to respond to this. And I wonder down the line, will they make any changes to their employee rules and handbook? But I have to let you guys know, even though we see what's said legally, and that's very important, obviously, now that we're dealing with a lawsuit, but as a person who, has spent many hours walking up and down ESPN hallways, I can tell you that everybody knows when you work in television and entertainment in general, when you're signed on with them, you have to watch what you say on and off the clock. You don't know how many days I wanted to say stuff on social media, but I knew that it was somebody on there that was going to snitch on me. So you know what I did? I started blocking folks.
All right.
Now, was she taken off the air as a result of all this too? They took off the air for a while, right?
Yes. So, like I said, she ended up getting the vaccination, even though she didn't want it, and she ended up having to get the booster. And they took her off of different events that she was on for years. She's a board member on the Jimmy V Foundation for Cancer Research. They took her off of that event. There was an executive who actually kind of blasted her and her situation at one of the ESPN events. And they tried to hand her the masters instead, of some of the regular jobs she would get. But she still wasn't happy with that, because she's like, look, there are co-workers who have said things not only that were political and maybe even worse than what I've done, but they also are in a way allegedly harassing her as she feels. So this is another part of it, guys, that is really getting on people's nerves, because they feel like Sage is, I don't know if the word should be snitch, but they are aggravated with the fact that in this legal complaint, she has called out several of her former and co-workers today.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't she did take some time off, but isn't she now doing still some anchor work for them?
You know what? She did take some time off. I don't know if she's doing work from what I thought. I thought she was still sidelined while this was going on. But I have to say, you guys, the people that she called out on this is Jamel Hill. She called out Damian Woody. She called out L. Duncan and Michael Eves. She called
It's all the black folk on the drum.
I didn't even know I was gonna laugh. She called out Ryan Clark. Yeah. But let me say something, guys. In television, you work on a set and you get to know people because you're working closely with them, and you don't have to like everybody. But when you're working that close to people, you want to have good vibes in the studio, because it's such a compact area. And I'm getting the sense, and from reading this complaint, that the co-workers, not all of them are on her side. Ryan Clark didn't want to appear on the same segment with her on Sports Center. Mm-hmm. He asked that somebody else fill in, and when they did not handle his request, he didn't show up for the segment.
Wow.
Ooh.
Now I have to say that's an insult when you working in TV, because if I found out somebody did that to me, and who knows if Sage even knew that Ryan had an issue with her, first of all, and then you find that they went to management and said this about you, and then they didn't even want to show up, you're gonna feel some type of way.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna feel some type of way.
So you see it. What do you think the outcome of this whole situation, in your opinion? You think she wins the lawsuit and then what? Or loses and then what?
Well, let me say this, and let me see if I can find it, because she's looking for punitive damages under common law for reckless conduct, compensatory damage, and some other damages she's looking for. You can read the complaint. But before I get into that, I just want to also say, because I think it's important, that she also called out SportsCenter anchor Nicole Briscoe, and I want to call that out before I wrap up that part you guys just asked me on. Just because Nicole had the balls now to reply to a tweet that expressed hope that ESPN would no longer permit Steele to cover women's sporting events. So she replied to that tweet and said, "Amen. Even if I get in trouble, amen." And for me, you working with this person, you don't give a hot damn if you got enough balls to know that you on TV too, and you're gonna have to cross this lady's path on the same SportsCenter set. But to answer your question, I want to see what happens. ESPN has to respond. I mean, that's just simply it. But I have to let you know that Sage feels like ESPN and her legal team feels like they should accept a diverse opinions. ESPN says they love diversity, but it has to be in such a way where their values are respected in what you say. But I have to ask, what are the values of ESPN? What are the values of Disney? Because we know about the history of Disney. So I think maybe it's time for them to redefine what the hell are our values.
Do you think this is going to do it? Do you think the Sage Steele situation, you said earlier on that this may have to move into ESPN kind of rewriting some of their rules and things like that in the way that they kind of word their rules on speech and things like that. Do you think that this isolated situation is going to move them in a direction where they kind of move in a different direction, or do you think it's going to take more, given the power that Disney has and ESPN? And you know what I mean? They don't got to stop, but will they?
Well, you know what? I'm no lawyer, but I'm just speculating. If this doesn't get wrapped up immediately and this goes further and goes on, then perhaps they will take a look at it. But I think it just depends on how much damage or how much media this gets or how long it continues to go on. I mean, it's Disney, for God's sakes. They are part of ESPN. You're not gonna really be able to bully Disney around,
right?
Even if she wins the case, which I think she could. It's Disney, baby.
Yeah.
It's like Suge Knight back in the day.
Yeah, pretty much.
Should not TV and shit.
Yeah, definitely. Kera Dangerous on the Hip Hop Uncensored podcast. What you got coming up next? We see you interviewing everybody and anybody in the industry. Talk to us about what you got coming up next on the show.
Well, first of all, I just want to tell your fans now, y'all giving me permission to talk about what I do, because last time I think I said, "Hey, get my t-shirt," and they were like, Hip Hop Uncensored said, don't come on there promoting, but they giving me permission, so now I'm gonna speak on it. So thank you guys. I just want to say that. But yes, on the Kera Dangerous Talk YouTube channel, I talk about a lot of different things. I'm proud to say that a lot of it is Black content, and I try to do content that inspires and get people thinking, and I try to stand in the gap for people who don't have a voice. But I also put a spotlight on talent. And recently I have been doing a lot of interviews highlighting battle rappers. I had Hollow the Don on, Goods the Animal on.
Yeah.
I mean, outside of battle rap, I had a big interview with Royce the 5'9" that did really well. But next week, it's confirmed. So I think I can say it, kind of piggybacking off of you guys, and you'll know why. I'm having Babs Bunny on next week. So look, big brother, I'm in there with you with the making of the band.
Oh, perfect. That's great.
Yeah, and I also got QB, the female battle rapper. So previously I've only interviewed the men battle rappers, so I'm very excited about getting to talk to some females in that industry.
Proud of you, Kara. I remember when we all linked up at the All Black National Convention back in October, and we started kind of gaining a little bit of a professional relationship. You were asking how we got so many interviews and how we got it, and little things like that. And all we told you was the grind. And we ain't saying we helped you, but shit, you damn sure are grinding right now. And look, you're getting right in front of you. So congratulations. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep creating them dope ass overlays and this dope ass content, and do what you do. We appreciate you. Salute.
Sure.
Thank you guys so much. You guys keep your hands on the pulse of this thing. So it's always interesting to see what you guys are talking about next. So keep doing what y'all do as well. Thank you so much for letting me come on.
Thank you.
No problem. The only thing I do is give us voice 5'9". I don't want him on this fucking shit like right now.
Oh, okay, for sure. I'll mention it to him for sure.